from different people, and some I've collected off other properties, but mostly I've got from Edible Garden in Palmerston North, and a couple from Stranger Gardens when they were operating up here. So what I normally do here under the peach trees, the organic method of feeding these trees, I grow comfrey, because I don't fertilise the trees really. I mulch the grass in, but I grow comfrey under all these trees. And the idea of growing the comfrey is for the big root system of it to go down into the soil and subsoil, and in feeding itself brings all the nutrients up for the tree to feed on. So that's why it's there. It's not just because I've been too lazy and haven't weeded around the bottom. They're actually doing a job. And it's usually a bit wider, except I've mowed. But that's got a great value, that comfrey. That also harvests the comfrey from the big patch over there, and it goes into the black barrels you'll see every now and again around the place, and it makes a wonderful liquid fertiliser for tomatoes, potatoes, all that family group. So they get a watering with that, and it goes into the compost as well. So it's a wonderful thing to have on your property. With that, is Ben still here? He came and did an article on that.
No, he's gone.
Has he gone?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We had a reporter here from the local Beacon newspaper, and he was so obsessed with what I was doing with this comfrey that he came and did a full article on the whole thing, and got a lot of feedback through the paper on it. It's, I presume everybody knows about it, but I guess a lot of people don't. So it's got a huge feed value for the property. Yeah. Yeah. So underneath these fruit trees, and Laura was just asking me about producing the fruit trees, I've grown these trees myself, and I've got a number of them up there in the little nursery about so high. But a peach tree will grow very reliably off a stone. So what I've done in the past is throw all the stones from fallen fruit on here that might get eaten by that, what do you call that parrot up your way? That little... Rosella, yeah. Rosella's a bit hard this year, so I've had quite a bit of eaten fruit on the peach trees and the apple trees. So what I've done with those, and you're welcome to pick them up, Laura, you better go first, is under each tree is a stone, quite a few stones, of that peach tree. It's not taken off that peach tree and thrown under there, so it's very reliable. Now these ones here, this is a yellow peach, which I call a Kawanga yellow peach. The one behind the guys over there in Roseanne, is it? That's an Orion peach, and that is a very early peach. We're eating peaches off that tree in November. So that's an old heritage peach, and I've got another young one that I grew off a stone over there. It had 50 peaches on that little peach tree like this. I had to pull most of them off. So they're massive producers. Extremely reliable off growing off a stone. So if you find a stone out of a peach that you want to grow, grow it off the stone.
Okay.
Hugely reliable.
How long did it take from stone to...
Very quick growing. I'll show you a couple of young ones over there, and in their second year they had 50 peaches. They're just brilliant.
That's good.
Now don't attempt to do that with a plum tree. It doesn't work the same.
Yeah.
Plums should go on the graft. Yes. But the peach tree, most reliable off a grown stone. Yeah. And we'll have a look in the little nursery up the top when we go up. It's in free moving air. They've got to have air circulation and air movement to keep disease out. Drift off.
Where we want to plant?
Too much. Okay, we'll walk on up anyway. Yeah. It's our time.
Avocados in the shelter.
I wanted to ask you actually something Bill over here. So that's my 90s surprise apple.
Cranberry.
This year. Black scab.
Cranberry this is. Feels good.
They're sort of bitter, aren't they?
Mm.
Are they ready when they're darker or what?
Seems alright. Yeah.
Really?
bit soft.
Mine is smaller. I probably need to give them some food.
So I had to deal with that.
Oh, that's nice.
The perfume off them is just
Yeah.
incredible.
Wow.
I got them planted at our front door.
Wow, that is good.
Picking out on cranberries.
And this is quinces.
Yeah, but it's really nice inside.
Lovely smell of the fries.
They go dark and then they grow that colour.
Yeah, it'll grow bigger than that, but it'll grow almost twice the size of this. And a very smooth skin, lovely looking.
Yeah, they virtually drop all its leaves.
I can look it up, but it doesn't have problem, never. So it's the beauty of that.
Does it grow from seed?
Yeah. Those are grown on dwarf rootstock.
So each fruit is on a seed.
Apples there, very manageable small garden.
What do you do with your quince?
Cranberry.
We can do jelly,
Got a few
or
little
you
odd
can
things,
bake
growing
with
here.
meat.
There's,
Bake
a
it,
couple of apple
long
trees
time
on
baked
dwarf
with
rootstock
meat.
here, very good to grow in small gardens. Just behind in here is a cranberry. I can't remember the name of that. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it's
is
a
a very.
lovely,
So
beautiful
it's a late apple, and you're usually eating those during the olive harvest. So very tasty apple, and the beauty of it, it doesn't get codlin moth, so that's great.
Wow.
Same, this red delicious here, and also another apple here, which is lovely, a Captain Kidd, another old heritage apple, nice to grow. Tiny bit, not much, not much. Yeah.
My daughter's got a red delicious. It's old. I mean, the house is 100 years old, so not so fat, but very old. But they get a lot of cotton.
Yeah. It's only a small tree, I guess, and a bit hidden away. But yeah.
This is Monty Surprise apple.
They grow so big,
Which
the
one's
trees.
Monty
That's Monty
Surprise.
Surprise, oh.
Yes.
Bill used to say you could tell because it was such a sort of a strange tree the way, but that's
Yeah.
been nicely pruned. Ours looks much uglier. It just sort of
Yeah.
branches everywhere.
Yeah, feel free to pick things, eat those cranberries.
This is peaches.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
Peaches have to fall on the ground. It's when it's indicated that they're ready. So peaches, it's how we harvest them from the ground.
Oh, one's an Apollo, I think. Yeah.
Sort of pointy.
All these four, yeah. Oh, unique is one, yeah. I'm not sure which is which, to be honest. Pardon? No, I didn't buy that prize, yeah. Not that one, Bill. What's the others? Unique and
Apollo? I don't know that name though, Bill. I'm sure I didn't buy one of those.
And then there's
What do you do with all these
Oh, we sell them.
peaches? Oh, do you?
Yeah.
there's longer ones.
We just been in the market yesterday. And
I see at Pocatani. I think there was a market there today.
I think
Oh,
these
yeah.
came from
Yeah.
Nick's nursery, Nick Nelson Parker's nursery. So he might remember what he produced, but not sure. Pardon? That would be 10 or 12 years, but it has been pruned quite hard this year. It sort of grows quite prolific, and the branches will reach the ground. A very graceful tree, and has lovely fruit on it, but the native pigeons like it, so they usually get first. But they make a wonderful pie and things. But,
planted one, but it got pruned by a goat rather heavily in the first.
Oh, okay. Take a cutting, they grow so easily on a cutting. Yeah. Anybody's welcome to take a cutting or a piece of fruit off the tree.
So this is Fiji what they're talking about now.
Later.
It's the size of it. See, it's in my hand.
Lovely colour skin too. Yeah, no, I bent over to pick those feijoas up this morning and put them in there. Those are the cow's feijoas on the top, but these are the ones for the shop tomorrow. These are a bit of a different size. Yeah, so I just picked those up this morning. Oh, thanks for finding those. Yeah, I didn't realise that.
Come
I
on.
grow the big long bullthorn capsicum down there. Nice thin skinned one. Cooks up really nice. They're not hot chili peppers. They're called a bullthorn capsicum. There's a bit more interest over this side. So if we walk up this side, and we're nearly up to the top.
Stop here.
What?
Here. So this is macadamia nuts.
Up this boundary line of ours, we've got quite a few trees planted. I'll try and be very quick with them, but did a huge pruning here this year because all the little citrus orchard behind us was getting totally shaded out, and I had to cut the neighbours' ones down a lot too. But these Beaumonts over the other side of the fence, but I planted a few new varieties a bit more resistant to the green shield bug on this side, so they produce very well. But in here, the citrus orchard, we've got a few interesting things like a mountain pawpaw. Do people know that? Yellow one? Yep. Almost finished fruiting now. They seem to fruit a couple of times a year for a long period of time.
All year round.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. But in here is just a smattering of different oranges in the citrus orchard. But this one here that's still got fruit on is the Harwood's Late. And you get an orange off that tree every day of the year. So that's the beauty of that tree. Lovely juicy oranges. If anybody wants to taste one, grab one.
They're big compared with mine.
Are they? Yes. Oh, okay. Yeah. That's all right. Olive trees this year, Escalano, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, which was meant to be a big eating olive, but it hasn't turned out that way. I think John had the same experience. But I did find a Sicilian olive from Wailea Nursery this year. I'm growing 2 of those down there for a nice big eating olive. Hope this is not too steep for everybody. It's the harvesting.
You need more of this netting.
We've got tons more.
Sorry?
But I would like some netting.
You would like more?
Netting?
Yeah?
Yeah, I would. For netting some of the trees. You haven't got this though, have you?
Yeah, plenty.
Is it? Of this stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, I have got more, but we've never got enough.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You have to come and get it.
Right.
No?
We're into the line, so I'll just show you how we harvest. I won't operate the whole thing. But when we see all the olives up there like this, these telescopic rakes, we just poke them up into the trees. If all the mats spread out below like this, we have more mats. We would normally do both these 2 rows at the same time. And the olives will just be cascading down out of the trees. This thing works like this. It just runs on air up the little compressor there, and it's just going like this the whole time at about that speed. And by pushing that up into there, the olives are just raining down on the mats here. Being on the hillside, they'll roll down, so we operate the mats in that direction. And we have pegs on the bottom row, that we turn it up, and we'll catch all the olives down the bottom, and then when the time comes to pick it all up, we simply, well, I've got 3 of those rakes. When these are all full of olives like that, we'll just pick these up like this, handle it like that, and just walk all the way down like this. And that'll funnel the olives right down to the bottom. And we just put them straight in the crates. So it's a very fast procedure. But that's our harvesting method. And being on the hills like this, on the side of a hill, we can't use a tree shaker. They don't work anyway on a multi-limbed system like this. They like a straight trunk. But also the hills are just prohibitive for doing tree shaker work. Yeah. So that's our method of harvesting, just using these rakes, and that does the main part of it. If there's a couple of tall branches, we'll cut them off first, but they do the bulk of the work. It's a lot of fun and hard work. Yeah. Back up into the figs here. These are the Brunero black figs. They're quite good producers of the black fig. They should you should manage to find a few ripe ones on there if you want to squeeze them. There's plenty up on the table up there. Not quite ripe. They've got to be soft, but by all means you can pick them off the tree if you want one. Now these trees, the black fig trees, the wood is very brittle, so you can't bend them down very far. And my normal way of harvesting the figs, especially over this side, is just to bring those branches down by a hook I carry, and you could lever that branch right to the ground and just pick all the figs off and then let it go again. So I don't think these trees are too big. A lot of people say, oh, your trees are too big, but they're not for us. We've just got a method of harvesting them like they are. So we get a lot of fruit off these two. And over this side here, we've got another black fig, but our main producing tree over there, it's worth a look actually, to walk down there, is the Mrs. Williams tree. And there's some beautiful big French sugar style fig on those, which are very soft compared to the black fig and make a lovely eating fig. And those are the ones the restaurants like to buy for baking and popping them, cutting open like the flour they are and popping a piece of cheese in the middle and baking them in the oven.
Mrs. Williams is next one.
Yeah, they're the bigger ones.
Yes, yes.
Oh, is that Mrs. Williams?
No,
Next one.
no, it's a further one.
Yeah.
It's a 2 here
Oh, okay.
on top.
The other one.
Yeah, they do.
Really beautiful. It has a beautiful property.
Mm.
You really do.
Yes.
There should be some nice ones in there, Elizabeth. We'll have a couple. No, well they are.
Yeah, that one as well.
Right there.
Yeah.
Right, they're brown.
Every second Sunday of the month.
These branches pull down very easily.
Picking up on that because other people might.
And just the way it's picked is bend it backwards. You've torn that off. You bend it back the other way, then then it'll come off clean. Yeah, backwards.
Sorry,
Yeah.
would take a photo.
Nice thing.
So I'll
Get a
do
couple on you?
it's raining.
Okay.
Who else is there? Loris?
No.
The librarian?
Yeah, no. Not on the committee though.
All right. Yes, this is my...
So this is photographing
No, it's not a flash. It's
tree
not like a video
crops.
light, but it's actually easier because I can see what I'm doing.
You know, this is our pressing facility in here. We've used all our time for the day, so I'll be very brief. So you've seen the harvesting operation. So we keep all the equipment in here. I've been involved with the stainless steel fabricator and doing dairy company work, so that's why you see a lot of conveyors and tanks and different things around. This little machine here, when we bring up the olives out of these green bins here, they'll come straight to this machine here, which is a little fan on here, And what it does is separate all the twigs and the leaves out of the olives that come through the harvesting part. So you don't want to send all those twigs and leaves through your press. So we separate them with a wind blower there, blows the leaves out the far end, and the olives being heavier just come back down and fall back into that bottom crate there. So
Are you doing macadamia nut oil as well?
yeah, we are going to have a go. And we asked by the main macadamia farm down the road to have a go at it too. So we'll do that at the end of this harvest. Yeah, yeah, we'll. But at the moment, we just we take the olives in the shed after that. We'll weigh them first. We're going for a wash, sorry. Leaf blower first, then in the wash, and then we lift them straight out, come straight in and weigh them, and then they go into the press inside. So the press is an Oleo Mio centrifuge press in there, which does 100 kgs. That's probably 5 of those bins there at a time. So we just fill that up. It has to malix for an hour in there, which turns in a concrete mixer type operation, and that slowly releases the oil out of the paste that's been ground up from the olive and the seed and the stone as well. Stones and everything go through, and once you see a little bit of film of oil forming on the top of the mix in there, stirring away, after about an hour that takes, then you can start up the secondary process, and it pushes the olive paste through into the centrifuge, which is high spinning, and that spins the oil off one side in the first stage of the operation and follows through to the far end of the machine, and the waste paste comes out the other side. So it's a continuous process where you just keep feeding the press after that.
Can that press be used for avocados as well?
I've been asked to, but the head is wrong. You can change the head on the machine to cope with it, but we haven't tried it yet. We have been asked, but I'm not too sure. Yeah.
And what's the price on one of those machines?
Probably horrendous. I think probably about $36,000. But I was lucky enough to buy this one second hand for a small operation like this. So this one came from Gisborne originally, and I think I paid something like $25 for it. Yeah, so, and set it up nicely in here. So we have the full commercial kitchen in here, which we then process the olive oil and bottle it in there, and also semi-dry our figs in the oven in there and do it in the honey syrup. So we don't use any sugar in our processes. So you can see inside into the working part of the machine. But you can't actually see much as far as when the process is going on. You see the olives going in and the oil coming out. And in this process of centrifuge machine, it does everything cold. So
I thought malaxing was a heat process, is it not in this case?
no, just there's no heating involved at all on the machine. Yeah.
It's just a mixing, stirring.
You have to do you have a heating process.
Well, heat does extract more oil, and overseas nobody does it in New Zealand. But once you start heating the product, you do get more oil out of it. Yeah. But in New Zealand, we're all doing extra virgin olive oil. Nobody's doing the secondary phase of heating. Yeah. That's a factory heated process, which they do overseas. Yeah. And you end up with at the full end of the scale, you end up with an oil called Pomace oil, P-O-M-A-C-E. And that's a heat treated oil. Lower quality, of course, because of the heat treatment, and not as good, nowhere near as good as extra virgin olive oil. But they do it for the efficiency of getting every last ounce out of the olive, and they use that oil for cooking, which has a higher flash point because of its heating.
If you're getting 15% with cold pressing, what will they get with the heat?
I'm not too sure, but it would be more. They'd get quite a lot more out of the
Would they
olive.
get 30% or 20%?
We were getting 18-19% last year with a nice hot summer, but they'd get something like 30%, I would say. Yeah.
Another 50% more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then they wouldn't sell it for as much. So.
No.
But they've blended the Spanish, and they'd say it's highest quality olive oil.
There's a lot of suspect things that go on. Italy buys a lot of Spanish olive oil in. A lot of suspect things go on overseas.
Of olive oil in the world, Italy's the biggest importer of olive oil in the world.
Oh, yeah,
And
I
then they
believe it.
repackage it and
Yeah. I know there is good olive oil in Italy because I've been there and tasted it, but we don't see it here. Lupi is just very low quality.